Greetings, Chosen One. I'm sure you're still brimming with questions, even more so now after what's happened. I have nothing but time, though, so listen closely. If you've forgotten who I am, allow me to reintroduce myself. I am a humble researcher. I gather data on monsters from throughout the multiverse and develop new uses for their many abilities. As you could probably tell, I've scoured many realms in search of a chosen one like you, but I'm sure you've heard this all before. Just to reiterate, however, my line of work is familiars. The monsters in your world are especially, how would one put it, spicy. Considering the circumstances, I'd imagine you've heard my proposal and took it. However, I never quite got the chance to show you just how I got here in the first place. Perhaps an explanation is in order. So, let's begin.
Before I tell all about what I've done, how about I start with a question that you've probably asked a few times over the years. What is a familiar? Most of the time, I'd say it's just a way to summon monsters that give their users additional power. That's what it just boils down to. Truthfully, a familiar is the essence of a monster, bound to you, the user. They're not the actual monsters. Rather, they're true-to-life holograms, projected from the codex in your pocket so that they can fight right alongside you. The essence is what attacks your enemies, but it's impossible to see naturally, so I try to make them look like they're standing, attacking, moving, jumping, and so on. Familiars also have amazing power. In your terms, they can provide 2 lines of potential. These potentials can be more potent, depending on their card's rank. Currently, my ranking system goes from common, rare, epic, unique, and finally, legendary. Now that you're hopefully brought up to speed, Chosen One, let's begin this little lesson. Let's start with version 1. In 2011, the higher powers of your world added familiars, and I added the familiar tab to your Crusader Codex. Back then, familiars had 1 locked potential, seemingly being random, and a simple ranking system, going from common, uncommon, rare, and legendary. Only 1 familiar could be summoned at a time. Additionally, the summon was limited to the amount of energy left in a vitality orb. A user could obtain a longer duration by registering 2 additional familiars to the codex, giving them 3 orbs in total. The vitality ran down either when a monster attacked an enemy, or if the ability on the familiar consumed it. I have, however, made updates afterwards. Soon after, I worked on the system to allow users to unlock the true potentials of familiars. That's also when I introduced the mythic rank to allow truly legendary monsters as familiars. To give an example, Magnus, Hilla, Madman Manmaru, just to name a few. However, their potentials were a bit of a joke. They had 1 mythic grade line, but due to unknown reasons, their second line would be a common rather than a legendary. Users, of course, weren't very happy. Additionally, users were also allowed to use up to 3 familiars at once as opposed to 1. However, they had to go through so many hoops and hurdles that most of them didn't even bother. I have learned since then to ease up on those requirements. In 2015, JMS was introduced to a new, centralized codex that I like to call version 2. Up to 3 summons, a complete drop table viewer, a badge slot, fusion technology, and extraction technology, all within the dimensions of a device that fits in your pocket. Familiar badges were introduced. These badges would unlock even more power on top of the potentials. However, Mostly everyone went for the Future Genesis Ruins badge for that 3% magic attack and attack. Familiar Fusion was also introduced in version 2. By taking multiple of the same familiar, one could combine them and adjust their rank manually, as opposed to hoping to find a familiar with higher power. Extractions were also a new concept, which allowed users to take duplicates and turn them into familiar coins, which I will touch upon later. Due to the codex running on a battery, familiars could be summoned for only so long. When the battery began to run low, the summoned familiars began to slowly fade out of sight. It would only charge once a day at what you users call reset. I revealed myself, my aide, and my study to JMS's populace and offered a small store that sold items in exchange for familiar coins. In this store, users could purchase booster packs, as well as an item that would replenish the summon gauge. Any resemblance to a gasoline canister is completely coincidental. This item would replenish it by 500 units and could be bought once per day. It wasn't like this in all regions, of course. In TMS, it was quite a bit different. Not many know about this system, so listen up, chosen one. Where the V2 codex was right side up, the V2.5 was on its side. It couldn't hold an infinite amount of familiars, but the familiars that it could hold even more immense power than you could possibly imagine. 3 lines of potential. The catch was that it could only muster enough energy to summon only one at a time, so I think it's fair. Another unique function was that they leveled. All users had to do was just fuse together familiars that didn't even match, and it would level and tier up. Their potential scaled to their level too. For example, a legendary familiar with the line of strength could increase it by 6% at level 1, but could be 14 at level 5. And that brings us to where we are now. It's been roughly 9 years, but the powers that be had finally ordered a new familiar system, with GMS getting it first. I had doubts that going from version 1 to 3 would be a bit of a mistake, and it seems I was right. I digress. My aide had been observing JMS's populace and picked up on the kawaii culture. She insisted that we characterize the new codex and try to make it look like a Neko. I let her have that victory while I designed everything else, including concepts from 2 and 2.5. Unfortunately, I had to drop the drop tables due to time constraints. This chosen one is Roro. Roro is the cutting edge of familiar tech, a PFA, if you will. He even sells familiar items in exchange for familiar points. As an upgrade, I've also allowed users to equip 8 badges at once, rather than just 1, and have allowed users to unlock the 3rd slot with a much easier method. Outside of discussing the reasons why Roro is unable to provide familiar-based services at the moment, I believe I have explained a lot, if not all there is to know about the history of the familiar system. The next video will focus on how to use Roro and his many abilities. I have a feeling I'm not totally done, however. We'll keep in touch.